好歡迎咧大家嚟到呢度參加由教育及青年發展局主辦嘅各地升學資訊及公開試講解會 Ielts 專場。咁我係今日嘅司儀，教青局嘅 Karen。咁為咗咧讓我哋本澳嘅學生咧了解多啲澳門以外地區嘅升學資訊，我哋今年咧已經係第14年搞呢一個活動㗎啦。咁我哋今年咧一共準備咗有12場唔同主題嘅講解會，都希望可以喺大家升學路上咧有多啲嘅準備嘅。咁我哋今日講解會將會分為2個部分。首先前面第一部分咧會介紹 Ielts 考試啦，而第二部分就係一個 Q&A 答問嘅環節。如果有問題都歡迎大家去提問嘅。咁今日我哋好高興啦，有邀請到澳門理工大學貝爾英語中心嘅代表 Mr. Michael Dudov 嚟擔任我哋嘅主講嘉賓。咁事不宜遲，我哋而家就將時間交俾 Michael 啦。Now let's have Mr. Michael Dudov introduce Ielts to us. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Karen. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you very, very much for coming tonight. It's Friday evening, and it's just before the Chinese New Year break, so I'm already impressed that so many of you are here. That's great. Thank you very much for coming. Right off the start, can I just ask you a quick question? Does any of you know what it stands for? What Ielts stands for? Any volunteers? Oh, come on. It stands for English. Okay, who said that? He did. Oh, okay, great. You get a souvenir. Right. Yeah, in the back.
International English Learning Testing System.
Oh, close enough. That was pretty good too. Remind me afterwards. You get a souvenir too. Excellent. Pretty close. International English Language Testing System. I'm assuming you're all here because you're planning to take the exam, right? Oh, okay, great. I'll tell you as much as I can tell you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Please feel free to stop me at any time, yeah? And ask a question. Or if I'm speaking too quickly or I start to mumble, just remind me to repeat things or to clarify things. So the first thing, I'm just going to get up. I usually do this standing up. The first thing I'd like to look at is just to give you a quick idea of how this compares to other tests, including the CEFR framework. Most of you, from the looks, I would think you're going to be going for undergraduate, some kind of undergraduate studies, right? Which means, depending on the program, you're looking at around 5.5, 6, maybe 6.5, that as a minimum, which corresponds to about a B2 CFR. What's new in 2025? In the past, we only had a paper-based Ielts. Now it's on computer, has been for 2 years now. And I'll tell you about that in a moment. Here's the difference between the two. So we have IOP, Ielts on paper, and we have IOC, Ielts on computer. And here's a quick table that summarizes it all. So IOP, basically, you'll have to wait for 13 days until you get your results. And IOC, you will get them in a couple of days, usually around 3 to 4 working days. Yeah? As the name implies, Ielts on paper is on paper, the way we used to do tests. Can I just ask you a quick question? How many of you would prefer to do the test on paper? Can I just see some hands, please? Paper? 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 Me too. Paper? Okay. Not at all. Neither. Okay, how many of you want to do it on computer? Aha, interesting. Okie doke. Okay. I'd love to ask why. I'm going to ask why. Why? Why on computer? Why not on paper? More convenient. Okie doke. I what? You don't want to destroy your hand. With paper or with the computer? Oh. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Careful with the hand then. Okay. As you can see, there are some differences. One of the big differences, however, is with the speaking. With the paper-based Ielts, you still have an option to do the speaking face-to-face with an examiner. If you do it on computer, the speaking test will also be on a computer. Still live, still face-to-face with an examiner, but through a computer, through a remote connection. So if you do the test on paper, you actually can sign up for a face-to-face exam for the speaking part. And again, it's a good question. I'm always kind of, I don't know. I personally would rather talk to a real person when I do the speaking test, but I also know some younger people have told me they would feel more comfortable doing it on the screen because they don't feel so nervous. Yes? Social anxiety. No, anxiety is a good word. That's like a band 6, band 7 word. Okay, remember that word. Just don't use it too randomly during the test. Keep wanting to sit down. I'm not going to read all this to you. You can take a picture of it. You can check that on the internet. But these are the main differences between the two. More flexibility on the computer-based test, quicker results. But it depends on what you prefer. Some people really like to have paper. I prefer paper for reading. I prefer the computer for writing, actually. But unfortunately, they won't let you mix the two. For the speaking, I really kind of prefer the face-to-face. Maybe that's just my generation. That's the biggest news. Well, there's actually another bit of news that I got literally half an hour ago. IELTS on paper, effective 3rd of February, meaning very soon. You can only take it if you're a local resident. So you cannot, for example, go to, I don't know, somewhere else. You couldn't go to Hong Kong even, I think, and do the IOP there. You really have to be a local resident now, wherever you're taking it. So you couldn't go to Thailand, for example, and do the IOP there, unless you're a citizen. Yeah? That's a very, very recent change. It just happened. Another question. How many parts does the test have? Okay, remind me, you get a souvenir. Right, and what's the first part of the test? Okay, that was a bit too easy. Right. And how long does it take? I was too quick, I know. I've got to keep the hand off the button. Must keep hand off button. The next part is the reading. Great. How long does it take? That's about right. 60 minutes, 1 hour. Then comes okie doke, takes 1 hour, that's right. And the final part is takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. 30 minutes is a bit long. Takes about 11 to 14 minutes. Usually you'd be out of there at about 13 minutes or so. Yeah? Let's talk about the listening. How many questions? Quite right. Always 40. And it doesn't matter if it's IOC or IOP, it's always going to be 40 questions. How many parts? 4. It's quite easy to remember. So it's 4 sections, 40 questions, and there is a bit of a difference between the IOC and the IOP in this. So 30 minutes, 2 minutes after the listening finishes for IOC, and 10 minutes for IOP to transfer your answers to an answer sheet, okay? And again, debatable whether you prefer listening on a computer with a headset or do it on paper, but then you get a bit of extra time at the end to transfer your answers, maybe check your answers a bit more. Let's talk about the listening. The format. First of all, the first part of the listening, the first section is usually how many people? Okay. It's a dialogue. 2 people talking to each other, and usually quite general topics. The second part is a monologue. Very nice. Mono meaning one. Usually one speaker. And the movie is, you get a souvenir if you tell me, oh, that was too many now, I don't remember who said it. It is. But actually, they adapted Star Wars to Hamlet. That's the scene from Hamlet, I think, where he says, you know, to be or not to be. That one. Monologue. Section 3, kind of a group discussion. Anyone know this movie? I didn't think so. I think it's from the 70s. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Great movie, classic movie. Conversation between multiple speakers. And finally, you have a lecture. This is if you're taking academic. It's actually the same academic or GT. So you have a lecture. The question types. The usual, which I think you'll be used to from your high schools, including, and especially in section 1, you'll get filling in a form quite often. For example, when do you fill in a form? Oh, I'll help you. How about an application form? Job application, library card application, job application, right? Could also be a claim form, like an insurance claim form. Could also be notes, something like that. Oh, too quick again. I was going to ask you. Also, gap fill, so completing blanks in sentences. Then, completing a table, writing short answers, but you won't actually have to write complete sentences, so it's only just a couple of words. It might be 1, it might be up to 3. Multiple choice questions, matching different options. A few things then about the listening, and part of what I'd like to do here is give you some tips, some practical tips for the exam. First of all, you're only going to hear the recording once. One chance only. And that is the challenging part. I've done it many, many times myself, and I don't always get a band 9, even though my English is pretty good. And mainly that's because the recording only goes once. So if I look out the window, I miss a question. And what? Yeah. What? No. Right. Read before you listen. Really important, guys. You have some time before each new recording. Read. Don't look out the window. Don't think about breakfast. It's in the morning. Don't think about how sleepy you are. Get reading. Then, identify keywords. Okay, fair enough. Read the instructions. I think I did that once. I forgot to read the instructions, and it said write 1 word only and or a number, and there I am writing, 2 words, and you get 0 points, even if one of the words is correct, yeah? Then, collocations. I can guarantee you at least probably around 2-3 points if you're good at this. Yeah? Words go together in English. What is the most frequent collocation with this? You are absolutely 100% right. Remind me to give you a souvenir. I don't know how many I have left. Absolutely right. And then, try to use prediction. If you're really good at this, again, this can help you. So, take a look at this sentence here. Imagine this is an Ielts exam. You're looking at this. Let's see if the pointer works. This is not my thingy. I don't know how this works. Okay, but you see the word a, right? What does that tell you? Okay, very good, very good. Not a vowel sound after that, so it needs to start with a consonant, the next word. What else? It's going to be singular, very good. And what is it going to be? Really? Your mom would be happy if you show up with a cat? Hey mom, here's my new pet. I have a different sense of humor. But yeah, the key word here when you're doing the test is that A. I was thinking more your mom might have a good time with a snake. It's the year of the snake, isn't it? Come on, surprise mom with a snake for Chinese New Year. Hey, mom. Good idea? Maybe not. Okay. So that's it. Here's some band score conversions you might be interested in. Basically, these are an estimate, more or less. It depends on each test. They're weighted differently. But for your range, you're probably looking at around 30-ish that you want, yeah? But you can see even 1 or 2 points can make a difference. So do fight for every point in the listening. Brings me to my final piece of advice. You can do a lot of practice tests, but during the listening, what you really need to do actually is this. Stay focused. You really need to, for those 30 minutes, forget about everything else and basically just get your head into that space. With the writing and the reading, you can relax a bit more. Again, because that recording just keeps running and you cannot shut down. If you need a quick break for the writing or the reading, you can take a few minutes and, look at the wall, close your eyes, do what you need to do, clear your head. You cannot do that with the listening. Brings me to the reading. How many questions? Yep. What do you know? 40. How many texts? 3. So it is 3 passages, 40 questions, 60 minutes. They come from a variety of sources, and the question types are quite similar in some ways to the listening. So you have gap fills, you have to complete notes, a table, short answers, maximum 3 words, multiple choice questions. Question for you, is spelling important? Yes, it is. So you do need to be careful with the spelling. There are some very specific questions for the reading. Matching statements, identifying paragraph contents, paragraph headings, and the true-false not given, still my personal favorite. And I'll give you an example real quick. First, I'll explain them. So true questions agree with the writer, false questions state the opposite, and the not given are not there. But you might think they're there. So I'm going to give you a series of statements, and you guys tell me true, false, or not given. I don't remember how many souvenirs I gave away already. But if you give me the right answer, I'll try to give you one. I'll give you 10 seconds. 8, 7, 5, 3, 2. I'm not good at math. 1. Time's up. Any volunteers for number 1? Okay, number 1 not given, he said. How about number 2? True. Okie doke. How about number 3? Not given. Okay, somebody's wrong. Interesting. Okay. Let's take a look. Okay, not given. Number 2, false. And number 3, true. And basically, it all depends on synonyms and understanding what it means to find a job rewarding. So, to find something rewarding actually means to get satisfaction. So number 1, already out, not given. We don't know if they're well paid. That information is not in the statement, right? Number 2, why false? Exactly. All is not the same as many, which leaves you with number 3, which is a paraphrase. And the reading really, really works through paraphrase. The better your vocabulary, the more words in a sense and collocations you have, the easier the reading tends to be, yeah? Another quick tip on the reading. Your finger. What does your finger do when you're reading? What? No. Exactly, no. Nothing. You keep the finger away. Not on the page, not on the screen. You let your eyes move. Much quicker. As soon as your finger is on the page, it's slowing you down. Yeah? So, the tips. Know what they're testing. Are they looking for specific information? Do they want you to... Are they asking you questions about content? So, finding detailed information, identifying attitudes and views, or main ideas, especially paragraphs. The paragraph headings can be quite tricky. So you're thinking, is it this one, is it that one? Be clever about that. So here's the advice. Read the questions first. Be really strategic about this. And all the rest then. Read the questions carefully, look for evidence, look for synonyms, and ignore unknown words. Read the questions first, because you don't want to spend 5 minutes on a difficult question or 2-point question and then discover, oh, here's one that's quite easy and I can get 3-4 points for that section, right? For that bunch of questions. Be strategic about it. Number 1 advice for reading. Oh, okay, for practice, before the test. Read books. Do you read books? Skip that. I've got to change my picture. A lot of people don't read books anymore. I used to read books all the time, and much less now. I still do, but much less than I used to. Get rid of the smartphone. Get rid of your iPad or your tablet. Get off the phones. And read. Read anything, actually. Reading anything is better than reading nothing. So if you're thinking, oh, should I pick up this 800-page book, or should I read Shakespeare and prepare for my English exam? Or, oh, I read some silly magazine. If the magazine is going to make you read or get you to read it, read that. Because most likely, you look at that 800-page book and you're never going to read it, right? The practice that you actually do is going to help you. Read. Read as much as you can, and it's good for you. Read for fun. Read things you're interested in. Brings me to the writing. 60 minutes, how many questions? Kind of, yeah, 2 tasks. What are they called? Trick question, bad me. They're called Task 1 and Task 2. Right. These are recommendations. You have 60 minutes, you're in control of your time. So basically, you want to take 30 minutes for Task 1, feel free to do so, but I would not recommend that. You really want to make sure you get Task 2 right. You get way more points for that. Nobody knows exactly what the exact cutoff is. It's top secret. But I would estimate probably around 2/3 of your score, your writing score, comes from Task 2, possibly more. Yeah? What are they? Task 1 is a 150-word report. It's descriptive, and that is important. Don't interpret data. Don't make things up. Don't tell a story. Task 2 is an essay, and we'll talk about that in a moment. First, we'll talk about Task 1. So, descriptive report. You have diagrams, and they can be something like before, after, they can be a process, things like that. And then for the other type of Task 1, you have data. Let's talk about diagrams. Rephrase the introduction. Use a variety of sequencers, if that's what it is. I'll show you some examples in a moment. Group information in steps, and use the passive voice if appropriate. And you absolutely need the overview, which I also call the big picture. And I usually put that at the end. I'll show you an example in a moment. So here is one such diagram. Cement production and concrete production. Here, like I said earlier, you should be grouping information. So you have things that belong together here, things that belong together there. Oh, I only have one of these today. Data, a bit different. Again, you want to paraphrase the introduction. You want to summarize key information, but you should not interpret the data. Yeah? And I'll show you in the example what you absolutely should not be doing. Identify trends, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And again, you need the conclusion, the big picture. Here we go. Okay, I don't remember how many souvenirs, but I really should give someone a souvenir for this one. How many trends? Give me a number, 1 to 6. Okay. Why? Wait. Really? 3 trends? Why? What? The ears? My ears? The years. Oh, the years. Years. I heard ears. I'm like, years, 3 years. 1960, 1980, and 2000. Yeah? 4 trends. Which 4? Okay. She's right, 3. But she doesn't have the right reason. She's right, but for the wrong reason. It's quite interesting. There are 3 trends. I'll show you. 1 trend, 2, 2nd trend, 3rd trend. Aha. Right? This is a great example of what you need to do for data. Essentially, for me, this would be a 5-paragraph, very short paragraphs actually, Task 1. I'd have the introduction, then I talk about one trend, which is the bus usage, which peaked in the 1980s. Car usage, which just had one direction. This could be Macau. Everybody's in a car now. And then you have going to and from work on bike and on foot, by bike and on foot, right? But the trend is the same for those, down. It's the direction of the data over time. Yeah? What's the big picture? What's the main idea? You're in the right direction. This here is what an overview looks like for this specific example. Yeah? This would be my model answer. This is what I would love to write. Exponential, nice word. It's just one of those words that'll get you some kind of extra points on Ielts writing if you know how to use it, right? So you could say very big, but exponential is a bit more specific, more precise. But this is it. It basically summarizes the whole thing in 1 or 2 sentences, right? All the transport types actually from 1960 to 2000 declined, but car usage was unique. It just had one direction, straight up. Task 2, answer the question, have an opinion, use examples. Remember the structure of essays, and write enough and check for mistakes. That's it. What is the structure of essays? Okay, I thought so. Great. So what do we start with? And then? Where's the main idea? Okay. Actually, this is what I start with. I start with the main idea. Then I add an introduction, because that's quite easy. You can just use, for example, anecdotal introductions. You tell a little story, or you use a funnel introduction, right? Or you give some background if you know something about the topic, right? And then the main idea, and then this, and this, and this, right? And that's it. It's formulaic. Follow the formula. Don't get creative on the writing. Once you've done your Ielts, once you're at the university, whatever you want to do, if you're doing creative writing, great. But for this, follow the formula, all right? It'll make your life much easier. You don't want to sit there and have to think about how to organize your ideas. This is it. This is your organization already. Whatever the topic is they throw at you, follow that. So here's an example. And these topics have been quite popular in recent years. It's the to what extent do you believe? What are your options? How can you answer this? Okay, on one hand you have I totally agree. On the other hand, I totally disagree. In between, I totally don't care. No, you shouldn't say that. Okay, I neither agree nor disagree, right? Something like that. Okay, now it's getting complicated. Then somewhere over here you have, I somewhat agree, I somewhat disagree. Depends on the topic. You might be heading for trouble if you go down that path because it gets more complicated then, right? Sometimes it's really quite easy to just say, look, I agree with this because reason 1, reason 2, right? Or I disagree with it. But really up to you and really depends on the topic. Is that true? How would you answer that? You agree? What? Does anybody agree with this? Yes? Great. So would you give up your phone? Okie doke. Timing. Yeah, I did that on purpose. It's a real watch. 5 minutes for thinking, taking a nap. What? Yeah, take a quick nap. No. 30 minutes for? Okay, writing it. And 5 minutes to check your answer. So 5 minutes planning, thinking about it, yeah? 30 minutes write, 5 minutes check, yeah? And quite frankly, if I were you, again, this is my opinion, I would start with task 2. Because if you're going to run out of time, I'd rather run out of time on task 1, which is worth less marks, right? Get your task 2 right. Much better for your score. Brings me to the final part of the test, my favorite part, the speaking. You have about 4 to 5 minutes at the beginning, which is a Q&A. So 2 more or less familiar topics. For example, what do you like? That's a bit too general. How do you spend your holiday? Okay, it could be something like that. Holidays, right? Free time, things like that. General topics that really most people can say something about. And it really depends mostly on English, on the language, not can I actually answer this topic. The second part of the speaking exam is what's called the long turn. You'll have 1 minute to think about a topic, then you need to talk about it for 2 minutes. Yeah? And then the third part is you have a discussion about that topic with the examiner. Whether it's face-to-face or online, same thing. Same format, same question types. Yeah? So, this is what you're going to be scored on. Fluency and coherence, pronunciation, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy. So, can you keep going? Is your vocabulary accurate? Is your grammar accurate? And there's a bit of a trade-off. Sometimes if you think too much about the grammar, you might lose a bit on the fluency. It's getting a balance between all these things, right? Try to speak fluently, demonstrate a range of vocabulary, use an appropriate tone, speak clearly, don't mumble. Let me go back here real quick. Appropriate tone as well. Don't be too formal. You don't need to call the examiner sir or madam. Or don't be too informal. I've had candidates who said, hey, how are you today? That kind of in shorts and with flip-flops. In part 1, say more than yes or no. So can you tell me where you're from? Yes. You want to say a bit more than that, but keep it short. Yeah? Keep it simple. You don't want to say yes and then do a 5-minute speech on where you're from, right? And calm down. Part 1 is also there to kind of let you calm down a bit. For some people, it can be, quite an experience. They get nervous. Part 2, use the 1-minute prep time, take some notes. Write down some ideas. You get some paper, you get a pencil. Doesn't matter, computer-based or face-to-face, write a few notes down. Because if your mind goes blank, at least you can look down and go, okay, right? Visualize. If your part 2 topic is something about, I don't know, a mountain you really liked, see the mountain. What did you smell? What did you hear? What did it feel like, right? Who was there? All the WH questions. And finally, if you run into trouble on part 2, you can use the PPF strategy, which I stole from the British Council. Past, present, future. My favorite example of this, real quick, imagine your part 2 topic is talk about a museum you went to, right? Then you can say, in the past, when I was a young child, my parents made me go to the museum, and I really didn't like it because it was boring and a lot of dead animals there. Now, I'm a student, I'm a university student, and my parents can't really tell me what to do anymore, so I never go to the museum. In the future, I'm going to make my children go to the museum to look at the dead animals. Because why not? See how it works? And you can use that with almost any topic. So if you run into trouble and you're like, oh, how do I answer this topic? Try that. In part 3, it's really about testing your limits. Talk. Do whatever you need to do. Extend your replies. In part 1, you want to be quite short. So if they ask you, do you prefer vanilla or strawberry ice cream? I prefer vanilla because, okay. Or you can just say, I don't care, I just like ice cream. Great. 2 sentences, right? Here, then you can talk about, but actually I think you shouldn't eat ice cream because it's not healthy, and it has too much sugar, and it makes your teeth fall out, and it's bad for children, and it's destroying the planet, and you know how it is. But you can go. Part 3 is where you really show what you can do, all right? So real final example for you guys. In the beginning, if the examiner asks you something like, what kind of place do you live in? You could say, I live in an apartment. All good? No, because department is the wrong word. You can live in an apartment, but not a department, right? I work in the English department, but I live in an apartment. You could say, I live with my father and mother and brother. Okay, but you can do better than that. Now, this is too much. Remember, I told you you don't want to do too much, but it's just an example of how this works when you do speaking and when you're scoring speaking, when you're being graded on speaking. Apartment, flat, high-rise, different expressions for places to live in. Which, non-defining relative clause, right? Home, another word for places to live in, and but, a subordinating conjunction, right? Grammar, vocabulary, linkage, fluency, it's all there. That's what examiners, where their ears perk up and they go, okay, yep, that sounds good. Which brings me to, as I told you, a bit too much, but it would work. That's a good answer. The final piece of advice for the speaking then. That's it. Kind of meditation. I'm thinking more, be calm. Did I change my? No. I changed my PowerPoint. Now's the time for questions. No, calm down. Just relax during the speaking. Your English level isn't going to change much in terms of speaking. It's not something you can really study for quickly, right? But at the very least, you can do your best if you're calm. What really tends to interfere with candidates' performance is more often than not nerves, just being nervous. It doesn't help you, right? So going in there and being calm. The examiners are there to help you get the best score you can get. They're not there to judge you, to give you a bad score. Not at all. They really just want to see how high can you go. And now is the time for questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael, for sharing.